Good morning, everybody. A warm welcome to today's session. Give us a minute and we will start shortly. So I think we can start. It is very heartening to see more than 100 plus participants for this webinar. Also because of the amount of the PR that CBG in general has generated. So with that, I would like to welcome you all to the Tech Talk session, which is being conducted by SolutionBuggy. And we'll be looking at basically what is CBG, compressed biogas, and ways to produce it. So what I'll be basically covering in the next 90 minutes is what is CBG, what is the market potential, basically the process of how CBG is generated, feedstock selection, what are the government policies, and finally we'll also look at some of the financials and what kind of prices one can expect. Just a clarification: if somebody is looking at the exact biochemical reactions and how CBG is made in the digester and things like that, then we might not be able to look at it in so much of a detail in the next 1 hour. But I'll make it very clear that in the next 1 hour you'll at least know what is the kind of potential that CBG holds for an entrepreneur who wants to get into that particular sector. Before I start, I'll just quickly introduce what SolutionBuggy is. We are, like most of you know, we are an online platform to connect the manufacturing industries with the experts. For the last 6 years, we have grown immensely and have about 10,000 plus experts on the platform. We have completed more than 3,100 projects across India. And when I say projects, it is anything from a one-day assignment, like a consulting assignment or training program, to all the way to setting up of industries, right from concept to commercialization stage, including the basic market research, product identification, detailed project report, machinery procurement, plant setup, commissioning, supply chain management, sales and marketing, and anything that requires help from the MSME segment in the manufacturing sector. So basically, we are not just a company which runs webinars. So currently, we are also doing a lot of projects in the renewable energy and recycling sector, where we help entrepreneurs or existing industries to set up CBG and ethanol plants. With that, since we don't have any speakers today, I'll be the one who will be guiding you for the next 60 minutes to 1.5 hours. So my name is Guru Prasad Bangle, director at SolutionBuggy. I have about 20 plus years of experience in consulting. I am a BE in electronics and an MBA from IIM Bangalore. This is my second startup. My last startup was into real estate data analytics and was sold to Magic Bricks in 2016. I currently head projects, especially in the renewable energy sector for SolutionBuggy. So let's get started into the CBG sector as such. I hope my screen is big enough for you to see. So, a lot of talk has been happening, a lot of PR has been happening on the CBG sector. A lot of bigwigs who are entering into CBG. So what exactly is CBG that we all need to know about? That is what we are going to see in the next 60 minutes. And when we say compressed biogas, what it means, what an entrepreneur who wants to get into this with a, for example, a budget that he has and a land that he has, what can he expect? What are the byproducts that he can look to sell, not just the gas? So these are some of the key aspects that we will be looking at. So I'm sure all of you would have looked at these kind of headlines. The bigwigs, especially Reliance, is coming up with 100 CBG plants. And then there is Adani, who is getting up with 500 TPD plant. Just yesterday, I read that Suzuki has done a joint venture with the dairy in Gujarat to again come up with a 100 TPD unit. So everybody is wanting to get into CBG, and the government is also not being left behind, right? So the government has got some very good policies. If you look at Satat, if you look at Govardhan, a host of policies which have been in existence for. I mean, Satat has been in existence since 2018. Govardhan came in last year, so there are a host of policies there as well. Again, on the global front, also, if you look, most of the countries have got onto the CBG bandwagon. Especially, it would be surprising to know that Denmark, for instance, has actually, they have gone out of stock of all the agri waste of the wheat straw. Basically, they make CBG from wheat straw, and apparently they have gone out of stock, and they are now importing it from other Scandinavian countries to make CBG. So this being the case, there is government involvement, a lot of big private players getting into it. So Reliance, as I was talking about, and then government also has, very good schemes, not just the schemes like Satat. Satat basically stands for. We must also give it to the government that they come out with such nice names. Satat. Satat basically stands for sustainable alternative towards affordable transport. And you'll be surprised. Govardhan. Govardhan stands for galvanizing organic bioagro resources, and then at the end there is a dhan. So very nice naming convention also from the government. But basically, what these schemes also hold is they want to entice new entrepreneurs, especially from the agri community, to come into CBG sector, and they are giving a lot of market support, support for the not just the biofuel that you are producing, also the organic manure that you are producing. So in terms of government support, also there is a lot of impetus that is being given. Although Satat, if you see, has come out in 2018, but only now, the scheme is becoming more and more popular, and a lot of PR is being done on it. The scheme by itself is quite old. Okay. So having this in mind, let us look into what basically are we looking at in terms of CBG. So if you look at CBG as such, it is not a new concept. If you CBG basically is the biogas which is produced even in our villages, even since almost 1980s. It's the biogas which is basically called as gobar gas in many places, and this same concept has now been made into a more commercial kind of a sector, and somewhere where it can be commercialized, and also the purity of the methane that is being formed has to be improved, and things like that. But if you look at the basic process, it's the same thing, right? So next is what do we why somebody should invest? Obviously, the social causes. Government says that you need to reduce burning of the parali, reduce wastage, agri waste, through disposal, and also looking at the municipal solid waste, which is being a big problem, especially the organic waste and decompostable waste. So all these, the government says that for the social purposes, these are the things. But for an entrepreneur, obviously, he has to look at some part of social purpose, but also from the economic purposes. So, I mean, how is it going to be commercially feasible? These are some of the things which obviously all of us have in mind. And there is an offtake agreement, right? So if you look at how CBG has become so much famous today, is because the oil and gas companies, basically the OMCs, run expression of interest, on their websites regularly. Some of them run it throughout the year, wherein you can go and register, and then you can become one of the suppliers. I mean, you can give an EOI saying that I want to supply so much, and you are free to come and register to any of these OMCs. And today, if you look at, in my next slides also, I'll be talking about, you are looking at least 46 rupees for a kg of CBG that you are manufacturing. And along with that, you're also making some organic fertilizer, which for all practical purposes today gets you only 1 rupee 50 paisa, but there is a big plan to raise it to almost to the rate of commercial urea, which is about 4 rupee 50 paisa. Next is obviously, there is a demand in the market for CBG only because not just because from the transport sector, but also from the other sectors like industrial sector has a big demand, and then there is also the household gas, domestic gas by itself, which is going to be a big demand generator, and which makes us believe that that's the reason why Reliance and people like Adani are getting into it, because Reliance, like is one of the largest CNG supplier. So for them, it becomes a no-brainer to get into CBG, because obviously CBG is being manufactured at much lower rates. Today, if you see what CNG sells at 94 to 100 rupees, based on which state you are in, and CBG just sells at about 46 to 55 rupees. So obviously, when government has given an initiative to blend CBG with CNG, then it makes very good economical sense. That's where you are looking at multiple, kind of factors which are which are kind of very good for the new entrepreneur. In fact, in 2022, I'm not sure how many of you are from Bangalore, but GAIL has actually launched piped gas to many layouts in southeast Bangalore, especially in HSR layout and things like that. So now this becomes a huge impetus, because all these years, what was happening was the CBG that was being produced, it was the responsibility of the producer to go and give it to the retail unit, which is within 25-kilometer range from his location. But now, once the piped gas and the CGD, which is the commercial gas distribution link, becomes a reality, and people like GAIL, Indraprastha Gas, and a lot of private players also start coming into the Indian gas exchange pipeline, then it becomes a very good proposal, because you just have to make the CBG and you don't have to carry it to the retail outlet, but you will be directed towards a very close by pipeline where you can go and blend it along with the CNG which is there in the pipe. Obviously, it's not like you'll open a valve and then just plug it in and do it, but there are processes to that. But again, that is going to be a game changer, and that again makes me believe that there are a lot of private players. So prominent among them is one called 𝐿𝐺 Energies in Gujarat, and they have also got about an order of about 8 TPD production which they produce, and they do not give it to any of the retail outlets. They go and directly pump it into the pipeline, the gas pipeline which is there, which is the CGD of Gujarat. Again, GAIL has signed about 26 agreements to inject about 11 TPD in 2022 itself into the CGD pipeline. So, and also the best part is you will be signing a 15-year agreement, purchase agreement with the OMC company to whom you are supplying this CBG, right? So all these put together, I know it all gives a very rosy picture, and it also makes us believe that CBG is going to be there for future. And in comparison to what ethanol is today, obviously we are doing even ethanol plant setups, but then those are plants which require budgets of upwards of 100 crores. In comparison to that, CBG is much lesser, and CBG is more, I would say, local production, local consumption kind of a commodity. So then your recyclability increases. You take in the waste and agri waste and things like that. But of course, I mean, commercially we'll also use Napier grass and things like that, which I'll explain it to you later. But at the end of it, you are going to produce something which will be locally consumed. So that becomes a very viable alternative for any entrepreneur. Next, like I was talking about, is obviously we have heard a lot about CBG being used in along with CNG, so it becomes a very good fuel for transportation. As a alternative to the fossil fuels, and it will reduce a lot of greenhouse gases and emissions. So it will try to bring our carbon goals also more in perspective. So that is the key selling point for CBG, where transportation is going to be replaced by CNG. CNG is going to be replaced by CBG. The next thing what I was talking about is the cooking aspect. So where your PNG can be blended, or it's called I think there is a term called co-mingling. So they mingle it with CBG, and then it can be used as a fuel for domestic gas purposes as well. So basically, it's methane, right? So the higher level of purity that you get, the higher combustibility it has. Now, the next topic we can also look at is in generation of electricity. I think most of you who are from North India will obviously know that Delhi has put a ban on diesel generators. So end of 2024, all diesel generators have to be completely replaced with gas generators. Now, where do you get this gas from? Obviously, you are going to get it right now from the LNG or the CNG that you have, LPG or the CNG. But in future, when the prices of fossil fuel starts increasing, then you are in a fix, right? So then how do you generate the electricity? So this is gas turbines which run on this one is a huge success, producing almost 2 megawatts power as well. So this is something which is a good aspect that somebody can look at in terms of energy generation, electricity generation. And also CBG is a big today you might not appreciate this fact right away, but industrial users of CBG are much higher than the what we see in as transport, or what we see as the other usage of CBG is. The basic reason being, see, when you look at basically the welding industries and the heavy engineering industries, so they require a lot of gas, and in those cases, especially in the jewelry industry as well, there is a huge requirement of gas, and in those cases you can't run with say 60% methane kind of gases. So you will have to look at purities of upwards of 99%. Because obviously, for us, cooking gas, if you look at the flame, if it becomes yellow, do you switch it off? No, right? Whether it's blue, yellow, or green, you still burn it. But whereas in cases of jewelry and other such industries, if it even goes below 99% of purity of methane, then it's a big issue with them. So then, in that case, industrial users have a huge requirement for highly purified methane, and CBG process can be set up in a way that we can achieve upwards of 95% of purity. So this is just to give a understanding of what CBG looks like. I think the one figure on the left, everybody of us have seen in our villages and entire 2 and 3 cities where cow dung was easily available, and we used to run these gobar gases. Over a period of time, it also shifted to community-based biogas plants, where small akhadas or small panchayats used to run their own CBG plants. And today's what is it is the large-scale biogas plants, which are upwards of 2 TPD plants, ranging from 2 TPD to all the way up to 33 TPD. As of today, I think the operational plant in India which is running on, which is making CBG, is the Verbio plant, I think, which is up to 33 TPD. This is on the private sector. Of course, on the government sector, there are plants from 𝐂𝐨𝐿 and other things which are much higher. So, but this is how a typical, large-scale commercially viable biogas plant can look like. So, in that case, as a layman's perspective, I just wanted to show what exactly is the process. Of course, I've simplified it as much as possible. It's not that exactly this is how it works. But for us to understand, and for the purpose of this discussion, I think anything that comes as input in terms of livestock waste, cow dung, or it could be poultry waste, or any other kind of waste, or it could be agri residues like your parali or your rice straw, paddy straw, or it could be the sugarcane bagasse, anything that has a lignocellulosic material, basically which has starch. When you do some pre-processing on it, and when you digest it, and you can get starch out of it, which can be fed to the microorganism, that is the bacteria. It can be used as an input. Again, wastewater basically is the sewage water and the sewage, the MSW as well, the municipal solid waste. Of course, it can't be used right I mean, as it is, there is a process of segregation and cleaning up, and basically sorting and grading and things like that. And then it can be put into the digester, and over a period of time, 30 days to 45 days. So there are various days for which it has to be in the digester for the bacteria to consume it and digest it, and then release the methane. The last is obviously food waste. One thing which I've not added here is Napier grass, because that is one of the key producer, and most of the commercially viable plants today must look at Napier grass, because only reason being that it's the only raw material where it's most consistent, as in the quality of the raw material can be kept consistent, because all the other raw materials you do not have say over the composition of the raw materials that are coming in. Today you might get for example, in your solid waste you might get a lot of animal waste. Tomorrow you might get a lot of vegetable waste. Then next day it could be fruit waste. So you can't have a say on the kind of raw materials that are bringing in, not the quality of raw materials. But in case of Napier grass, so obviously it's a grass which is available throughout the year, and then you can control the kind of quality of grass that you are growing, and you are going to feed into the digester. So once the raw material is fed into the digester, the bacteria starts eating it. Then obviously after a period of time, 30 days to 45 days to in some cases to 60 days, it starts producing the biogas. Now once the gas is produced, it can be used for all the purposes that we talked about. Obviously not in the same form, but obviously it has impurities like carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide. So all these has to be purified. You need to clean it up, and then use it as biomethane and into fuels and into the gas grid and things like that. One another byproduct that we can look at is basically the organic waste that comes out will be also very good. Two things come out. One is the slurry and one is the solid waste. Now both of them can be converted into organic fertilizers, and like I was telling about 2 slides back, that there is a huge impetus from the government to start using the nano fertilizers and things like that. So along with that, they are also in talks to include the waste coming from CBG as organic fertilizer. And today their price support is at 1 rupee 50 paisa, but then there are very advanced level talks to raise it to 5 rupee 50 paisa. And that is in line with what subsidy that farmer gets for buying urea. So he can easily switch between the commercially available urea to organic fertilizer. So then it becomes a multi-fold proposition for an entrepreneur to get into this. So like I was telling about the agriculture, I mean the kind of feedstocks that can be looked at. So the only reason why we are again and again mentioning Napier grass is because of the kind of the fuel that you're going to get out of it is very consistent. One, it's the highest to some extent, not by itself, but by mixing it with the organic matter like cow dung or with poultry waste. Then you can increase the efficiency of the gas that you're producing. And also there is you can, like I was telling, you can maintain the consistency of the raw material to a large extent. And since most of the times you have a long-term agreement with the farmer who is growing this Napier grass, or you yourself could be taking farms on contract and growing this, you have a say in the raw material procurement. In all the other cases, you do not have a say in this. For example, if you take parali or rice straws, it's available for a maximum of 4 to 6 months in a year. What do you do for the rest of the months? In case of municipal solid waste, although the government keeps saying that it's a social cause, you need to use this municipal solid waste. If you are very close to tier 1, tier 2 cities, you have a lot of municipal solid waste that's being generated. But on ground reality is completely different. Who the collector or the garbage collector who's collecting these things, what price is he going to give it to you? Obviously, he's not going to give it to you for free. Although it means that you are going to uptake a lot of his waste, and you are going to relieve him of a lot of landfills and things like that. But for him, it's again business, right? So he's going to give it to you at some price. Can you be sure that you can maintain that price throughout the year for your raw material? So these are some of the issues that you will have to look at. when you are going for MSW or when you're going for cow dungs, unless you have a goshala by yourself. Today, cow dung might be available at 3 rupees 50 paisa per kilo. But tomorrow, if another CBG plant comes up, then are you sure that he'll give it, the goshala which you are talking to will give it to you at the same price? So these are, some of the practical scenarios which we are also facing along with our entrepreneurs when we are setting up these plants, and that's the reason why we are, more and more focusing on Napier grass as one of the stable, raw material. So let's see at what the basic process is. I'm sure this slide was put up by one of my juniors who very well knew that I'm not very good at, I'm not from a very chemical background or a chemistry kind of a background. But just to make the slide more easier for you to understand, basically it's the process where, the biomass that comes in has to be anaerobically digested. What does anaerobic digestion means is, even if you leave the biomass outside today, it will still be producing methane. Only thing is we are not capturing that methane. So in this case, anaerobic is in the absence of oxygen. The same process happens where the methane is again being produced. It is being broken down by the bacteria, and the bacteria leaves out the methane. This methane then needs to be based on the kind of purity that is required. So there are a few processes that we look at down the line, where like I said, the starch that is initially formed and being eaten by the bacteria has to be again converted back. The methane that is being produced has to be converted into highly purified form of methane. So what are the impurities that we are looking at? Obviously, one thing is dust. There are moisture content, and then there is hydrogen sulfide, which is the most, although it's available in very small quantities, about 2 to 8%, but then it's the most, I would say, challenging byproduct that we need to be aware of, because obviously it's a poisonous gas. And then obviously carbon dioxide, which again can be converted into any other form, or it can be made to react with the hydrogen sulfide itself to make it, to reduce the impact of the hydrogen sulfide. But we can see at the purification stage what kind of processes we can look at. So like I said, methane, when biogas is made, not the compressed biogas, when we look at normal biogas, methane is in the quantity of 55 to 60%. Carbon dioxide is almost 40 to 50%. We need to reduce that in a commercial, CBG plant and increase the content of methane. So we make some reactions happen within it, where carbon dioxide reacts with the internal hydrogen that is available and try to make methane again and add to the existing methane composition. Hydrogen sulfide, like I said, has to be reduced. Of course, when you are looking at press mud is a, I would say, a waste material that comes out when you are removing out your sugarcane juice and your molasses, and also in ethanol plants. So now when it comes in to the when you take pressed mud as your raw material input, then in that case the H2S hydrogen sulfide is on a much higher side. But there are obviously ways to clean it and look at efficiency of the methane gas. Finally, you have moisture. Obviously, moisture needs to be removed if you are looking at pumping the CBG into either the cascades which are being supplied to the retail units, or to the if you're selling it to the CGDs, wherein you're pumping it to the pipeline. So, like I was obviously talking about, how do you do these processes? The purification, again, a little bit of chemistry involved. You need to, like I said, remove hydrogen sulfide as much as possible. It's a health hazard, not only for the, it's not only just a health hazard, but also it tries to, it reacts with a lot of metal components and tries to corrode them. So your CBG plants, mostly in India, the CBG plants are still concrete based, but there are a few few entrepreneurs who are looking at stainless steel and higher grade steels to set up these plants. But again, like I said, these are at the very initial stages. But having H2S as an impurity in that case again poses a risk, because it can react with these steels. Obviously, moisture has to be removed, considering that this is going to be used for cooking and things like that. So having moisture obviously decreases the efficiency of the methane. And finally, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, what you remove can be, basically used to increase the quantity of methane which is being produced also. And in some cases, what we can also look at is removing this carbon dioxide after all these processes out and try to bottle them, bottle the CO2 itself. Of course, unless and until you have a like a bottling unit for the carbonated beverages and things like that kind of industries close by, then it's a good alternative source as well, alternative source of income. So this is more on the the actual processes on how the purification works. As of today, if you look at the process as such, the pressure swing adoption basically works in the concept is very simple. You are running the methane through layers of sieves. So at each sieve, they make sure that the concentration of the methane is increasing. Obviously, they're going to use some adsorbents, which are right now being imported in India, but then over a period of time, I'm sure we will have these adsorbents in India. Adsorbents and the sieves are being imported. So the CO2 separation is the major, the major output is basically to increase the methane concentration and also separate the CO2 out. Next, we are also looking at, when we are looking at supplying this kind of methane, it has to be at least 90% pure. Also, as the it's not only that it has to be pure for supplying to the units, but in the open market, suppose you are going to sell it to industries within your locality, or you want to sell it to some of the a lot of jewelry industry takes biogas as well. So now when you're looking at these kind of industries, then the higher the purity, the more you can demand the price. Like I said, 99 purities upwards of 95 and 99%. Obviously, you can demand higher prices. But if you're just applying to the OMCs, then purity of 90% is more than enough. So like I said, the PSA is the most popular method where we are, currently most of the existing units. I was also talking about 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿. 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿 is a company set up in, I think, in Punjab, very close to Chandigarh. So it was one of the first initiators of large-scale CBG plants. They are doing about, the plant currently has a capacity of 32 ppd. But what I have heard recently is they are just using, they're just producing about 8 ppd per day. So for whatever reasons. And then again, there is the, this is one of the process where we can look at getting even 99.9%, but it's a chemical purification process. Obviously involves a lot of more, I would say, advanced processes of purification, and obviously at a higher cost. So some things which we need to be very clear in terms of making a CBG is obviously it's a combustible gas, so you need to get your PESO approvals and your local pollution control board approvals in place. You have to adhere to very stringent safety norms, like basically the leak detection. So you need to introduce a few odor, because basically CBG does not have much odor other than the H2S which is there in it. So then you have to introduce a few odor introducing gases. And you also need to make sure that the bottling unit, because today what is happening is you can't directly supply, whatever CBG you are making, you need to bottle it, right? And that is also one of the big concerns, because you need to invest in these cascades. They are basically called cascades. If you look at a CBG, I would like to say, just to give a comparison between a commercially available gas, which are used in the hotels and restaurants, I think it's about 17 or 18 kgs, the LPG. Now, for the similar amount of 18 kg LPG, you will have about 4 cascades, which are, I would say, about 6 to 7 feet tall, right? 4 such metal tanks you need to have. So that makes one of the disadvantages of CBG is that it is compared to LPG, it's going to be much bigger cascade units. You will have to obviously invest in that. And again, these tanks are need to be certified by the right IS, I think it's IS 7285 standard or something like that. There are a few companies in, I think in Gujarat and also in Tamil Nadu, which are making these composite cylinders. But these are kind of type 3, type 4 composites, and they are also matching the IS 7285 standards. But again, these are still at a very nascent stage. So once they come in, then the bulk of these the cylinders will reduce, right? But then right now, what you see, you will obviously have to invest in bottling these things and make sure that these are as per the safety standards. And also today, one more drawback is that unlike ethanol, the OMC does not come to your location and pick up the CBG. You have to go to the retail CBG unit and go and offload your whatever this one you have in the cascades. And just to make it a little bit more irritating, they have also made sure that the cascades which are going to be placed in the retail unit also belongs to you. So it's not that you will have only one cascade with which you will go refill their unit and come back. You will have one which will be sitting at the CBG retail unit, and then one obviously you will have to use it to transport it. So that's some of the logistics issues that have to be still taken care of. But again, like I said, if the CGD model, which is the commercial gas distribution model, comes into play, then it's much better. You will have points where you can inject the gas into the gas pipeline, which is already flowing in that particular city or the tier 1, tier 2 town, and you can, in that case, your holding cost of all these logistics and things like that will be much lesser. But as of today, this is what it is. Obviously, you need very well-trained personnel who need to be, trained enough about the safety measures and things like that. Not just that, one more thing I would also like to mention here is, as of today, the Satat scheme which is there is applicable only for plants which are upwards of 2 TPD. Basically, 2 ton per day of compressed biogas has to be produced. Only for those kind of plants, this scheme is applicable. When you look at CBG as such, a lot of numbers keep floating around. I would say, somebody says 6,000 cubic meters of gas, and then somebody says 2 TPD, and then somebody says 25 TPD. So at the end of it, these are different conventions that they're using, right? So what I have written here is a standard biogas plant. Do not get confused with the CBG tonnage. Now, the 6,000, what it's saying over here is the raw biogas that is being produced. Now, to give you an understanding, 1 cubic meter of biogas can make 400 gram of CBG, right? Now, if you look at the 6,000, it roughly translates to about 2.4 TPD, which is your output. There could be a few people in the market, a lot of consultants as well, who talk about the input. Now they say, I am going to set up a 25 TPD plant. So does that mean that he's going to get 25 TPD of finished CBG? No, that is the 25 TPD of raw material that is going to produce, which probably based on what the raw material is, if you look at the next slide, say for example, cow dung. In cow dung, to produce your similar 2 TPD output, you will need 120 ton of cow dung every day. In case of poultry droppings, then it is only about 40 tons. In case of biomass or pressed mud. So these are the tonnages. Now, some people talk in terms of the input based on what the input is. In case of Napier grass, for example, Napier grass, I think for about 90 to 110 cubic meter of CBG can be produced. But for in that, that is the raw biogas that is being made. You can get about 38 to 46 kilos of CBG. So each one has a different convention that they use, but the more popular convention which we use is the output that you can produce. So again, when I say output, so the output in this case, what we are talking is an output of 2 TPD, 2 to 2.5 TPD. removing out all the inefficiencies and all. Let us keep it for all practical purposes as 2 TPD. Now this is where your Satat scheme starts coming in, because anything below that, then you can't use your Satat scheme. If you do not use your Satat scheme, what is it in? What happens is you will not be able to give to the. You won't be able to sign agreements with your OMCs. You won't be able to also get some preferential treatment in terms of your loans and things like that. But it is not going to stop you from setting up a plant. Tomorrow, if somebody comes and tells me, should I put only 2 TPD plant? No. There is no requirement like that. If you feel that there are good industries around you who have a requirement of biogas, CBG, or who are today buying CNG, and they want to replace it with a cheaper CBG, you can obviously set up a plant and just supply to them. You don't have to bother about all these schemes, nothing of that sort. Govt is applicable to you. That scheme you can still utilize and get some subsidy over there. But the Satat scheme won't be applicable. You won't be able to supply to the OMCs. So those are some of the restrictions that you have. But you can still set up a plant, even however low your production capacity is. But again, we'll have to look at whether it's economically feasible, what is the kind of raw material you're going to get, and a host of other things. Before I go to this, I would also, like to keep in my perspective that when we are telling that, we are going to look at CBG through Napier grass and things like that, one drawback that you'll have to also look at is when you look at Napier grass, like I just mentioned, you need to at least look at, say, for example, about 100 kgs of Napier grass today without any, lab recommended processes and things like that will produce about 6 kg of biogas. And as of today, let me be very frank, there is no operational Napier grass based CBG plant running today. As in, it's not completely running only on Napier grass. There is a plant which is very soon going to open up, I think in Junagadh in Gujarat, which is a 10 TPD plant. So just to give a perspective, for a 2 TPD plant, you need to grow Napier grass in approximately about 60 to 80 acres. The reason being, Napier grass is a 4-monthly product. I mean, it grows in 4 months, right? Now, to alternate, obviously, you need to run the plant for at least 300 days to be economically feasible. So, to make sure you have raw material throughout the year, you will have to see that you grow Napier grass in at least at least 60 to 80 acres to satisfy a 2 to 3 TPD plant. Right. So if you are looking at 10 TPD, then the acreage of Napier grass growing has to increase proportionately. So that is one drawback. Again, what people also do is they don't completely do only Napier grass. They mix Napier grass with cow dung. Obviously, it should be available close to you, because being very practical, I think if the source of raw material is more than 5 kilometers away, then your plant is not going to be economically feasible. So this being the case, I would now want to throw some light on what the market is today. We have talked so much about how CBG, what CBG, and what's the process and things like that. Who's going to buy it? Obviously, the OMCs are going to buy it. What is the price today? If you go and look at it, it's not very, it's very publicly available information until 2024. If you look at this slide, government has fixed it at 46 rupees. But then again, you will have to take a rider on this, because last year what happened, government kind of freed up CNG pricing, because otherwise there was government subsidies and oil marketing companies used to lose out when the global CNG prices went up. Obviously, even today, we do not cater to all the CNG requirements of our country. We import CNG, right? So now what government has done as of last year is they have pegged it to the international market. So CNG prices keep going up and down. So that is why when we go to the bunks, to fill our cars or autos or whatever, we see that prices keep going up and down. And what government also has done is they have fixed the base of 46 rupees per kilo, and then said that last year that CBG prices will also go up and down based on the CNG prices, right? So today CNG prices could be 94 and you could be getting 52 rupees. Tomorrow when CNG prices go to 100, you will get probably 58 rupees. So, and then again, if CNG price comes below 90, then again you will come from somewhere close to 46, 48, but you will be fixed at 46 as your base minimum price. So that being the case, they obviously run a 15-year agreement with you. You have all the, this one. But again, let me be very clear: it is not take and pay kind of an agreement. For beginners, what take and pay means, take or pay. Sorry, take or pay is if today I am producing 2 TPD, and say for example, Indraprastha Gas or GAIL signs an agreement with me saying that I am going to offload your 2 TPD. I go to the whatever CBG retail plant and I give it to the nearest CBG plant, which is within say 25 kilometers from my location, and I keep giving it. Now say 6 months down the line, that CBG retail plant does not need 2 PPD, or there is no so much of demand. Then there is no I would say directive for the OMC that they have to still take your 2 TPD. They can reduce it to 1.5 TPD. So that is this one saying that there is no take or pay. So that is very clear. Next thing is, suppose today you are making 2 TPD. Tomorrow you feel that there is good availability of raw material and you make 3 TPD. Then you are also at you have the liberty to go and sell it in the outside market, as long as you are giving 2 TPD to the whoever is your agreement holder. The rest of it you can sell it in the outside market. So that is the pricing for the CBG. Now coming to biogas, the biomass that you are going to get, you are obviously going to convert it into fermented organic manure, which is called FORM. And now this FORM, as of today, has a price support of 1 rupees 50 paisa per kg from the government. You can sell it in the open market, or you can give it to some of these government agencies also, 𝐒𝐿 and things like that. But again, there are talks. The Indian Biogas Association also is having talks to increase this price to almost 5 rupees 50 paisa. So that will put it on par with the urea that the farmers buy. So then it becomes more incentivized for the farmer to go for probably a biogas, right? Because one is it's locally available and it's good for the soil. So urea, obviously, we know what the effects on the soil and things like that are. So that way, these are the two areas where you can look at commercial. I mean, look at the commercial aspects of your end product. So let us also now look at see what are the kind of subsidies that are available, central financial assistance that is available. If you look at just a biogas plant, there is this one of about 0.25 crores, basically 25 lakhs, and it can stretch up to 5 crores per project. It is basically for biogas manufacturing unit. This is not feasible for for an entrepreneur or for a private entity, only for the reason that these are meant for I would say gram panchayat initiatives or the local jilla parishad initiatives, where they will be collecting the kind of a farmer producer initiative, where they collect these agri waste and the solid waste from these villages and tier 2 towns and all, and set up a community kind of plants. So this is basically they are making biogas. Now next is the bio CNG process, where you are looking at commercially viable unit for a private player. Then the incentives can go all the way up to this basically subsidy can go up to 4 crores for about 4.8 ton per day, right? And for a new biogas plant, and maximum it can go up to is about 10 crores based on the end output that you are going to look at. There is also a subsidy in terms of the power that you are going to generate and give it to the grid. And this again ranges from about 75 lakhs to about 50 lakhs based on whether it's an existing plant or a new plant that is being set up. And obviously you get whatever power purchasing agreement that you make with the local ESCOMs at whatever price. But frankly, today's prices are not really good. You would see a lot of solar plants winding up because many of them do not have the holding capacity to be a long-term player. So right now, there were days when solar power, alternate power was being bought at 9 rupees, 10 rupees and all. But today the prices have come down to 2 rupees 50 paisa, 3 rupees and things like that. So As such, making power and putting it on the grid might not be a viable option for a new entrepreneur. For an existing player, obviously, as I would say, to ward off his liabilities from market, which can go up and down in the transport CBG sector, we can look at making power as an alternative as well, right? So other kind of support that the government is also providing for a CBG plant is basically that it is coming under white category. You don't need any extensive approvals. You don't need any too much of this one other than your PESO and PCB approvals, and then you get the central finance assistance as well. It's a priority sector in lending. Basically, you can go to your bank and on paper it says that you can get your loan approved in 30 days. But we all know how efficient SBI or the Canara banks and things like that are. I'm sorry to take names, but then we all know how fast banks can give these loans. But then there is a good impetus, at least from the banks such as NABARD and IREDA and things like that, where they're getting projects sanctioned at least from their end, and obviously there is being a priority sector. Some of the places are giving loans even at 4%. I've heard, but again there are a lot of considerations which they are looking at. But overall, there is a lot of impetus from the government also. So and the petroleum and natural gas industry also has kind of given an I would say a directive, not a order, government order, but a directive to make sure that all the CBG that is being produced will have a market. So that will make sure that any entrepreneur coming into it at least does not have to bother about क्या होगा अगर मैं ज़्यादा बनाऊंगा तो will there be a market for it. So that way there is a directive to start giving confidence to the entrepreneur. So if you look at what the future for the entire CBG market is, and what the Satat scheme is going to pull in. In fact, the clip that I put on the right side has been discussed just yesterday. You all are aware that G20 is running, and there was a almost 3-hour session just for biofuels. And within biofuels, obviously, it's not just CBG; it's ethanol. Again, we are working on a few ethanol plants as well, and then there is biodiesel. Again, very big, alternative, especially the MD15, which is methanol, basically methanol which is blended into diesel at 15%. It's called methanol MD15. So that has got a huge demand as well. So if you look at the capital investment that is required, I would say ethanol is the highest. Then comes CBG, and then comes biodiesel. So all these were discussed, and it actually gives us a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of hope that a lot of new entrepreneurs can get into these kind of sectors, not just for the social cause and things like that, which the government is obviously pushing at, but also from an economic perspective, it makes sense, right? And it is something that you set up the plant, and once you have the OMC agreements in place, it's something which is going to run by itself for the next 15 years, at least on paper. On field, you can have a host of issues that can come up. But to a large extent, if things are in place and corners have not been cut when the plant was set up, then it's something like fill it, shut it, forget it kind of a thing, right? So then we can also look at camera went off. No, I'm really sorry that the camera has gone off for whatever reasons, but I'm sure you are able to hear the voice. And so we can also look at a lot of I would say impetus which will happen once the gas exchange and the gas pipeline becomes more and more of a reality. Right now, GAIL is testing, Indraprastha Gas is testing it. There are a few private players in MAIL, and those people are also testing Mega Gas. So basically, they are going to make a pipeline to deliver gases to houses and apartments and things like that. So basically, you're going to get piped natural gas. Now, once that is in place, you will not have these red cylinders going around all over the city, right? Hopefully, once that is in place, all the CBG producer has to do is go and see a point where he can find the nearest pipeline, and obviously there will be a co-mingling unit somewhere close by, and he can go and dump his CBG, whatever he's made, into this one. It will get injected into this pipeline, and it will get mixed with the gas CNG that is being flown around. So then it becomes a very viable proposal, because one is your transportation and logistics has been taken care of. Two is your holding cost of your cascades, basically the tanks, also goes down. And the third point is you do not have to wait for whether there is a good sale at the CBG retail plant, retail unit, right? So sales on a CBG retail unit can go down for whatever reason. Maybe that bunk owner is not cooperative. Maybe he is not very serious about his business. Now his sales will affect your sale of your CBG, right? In current scenario, but over the future, when the piped gas becomes more and more feasible, then this has been taken care of. Next, also the government has made sure that it's become a priority sector as of today. So loans, like I said, can be available at even 4%. So then it becomes a more viable option. So these are some of the, I would say, impetus from the government. Obviously, a lot has to be done from the entrepreneur by himself as well, to understand that whether it's a feasible sector, whether he should get into it in his city, what are the pitfalls that he has to look at. So this is where we as SolutionBuggy can help you, right from getting your MOU done with your basically the getting an expert onto the platform and getting him do the land survey and do the feasibility analysis, prepare an entire detailed project report, getting you help with your PCBs, pesos, and also getting a license from the agreement with the OMCs for the offtake. We can look at what kind of civil work is required. Although we don't, personally as a company, we do not do the EPC contract, but we have a lot of vendors with us who can take it up, or you could do the civil construction all by yourself, and then look at the entire machinery installation and commissioning, plant layout design, and get the plant operational, right? So then we can also look at what are the various other options that you have for just to give you an tidbit. For example, like I mentioned, 𝐺𝐢𝐻𝐸𝐺 in 2021 set up the CBG plant. Today, if you go to their website, they're completely marketing only their bio fertilizer. Nowhere it talks about CBG, right? So then you can become a big biofertilizer player within your whatever region. Then you have an alternate source of income in that case. So these are some of the areas where SolutionBuggy can handhold you. And then of course we have the right experts and the right agencies with whom we talk with, and make sure that the project is successful. This slide, you would see that it is put in a small font. We don't want you to read it, but being an expert or a consultant, we have to make sure that you are being made aware of whatever the pitfalls are. We don't want to keep you in the dark. The first, obviously, I've been talking about a lot on it, is that your feedstock can vary, right? So if you are not looking at Napier grass as your main feedstock, then how do you ensure that you have feedstock available for at least 300 days a year? How do you ensure the quality of the feedstock? What is the composition that can you can look at? How do you make sure that feedstock does not vary day by day? For example, you are using municipal solid waste. Today it can be dry, slightly dry, but tomorrow, once the monsoon becomes very active, then the guy who's supplying you obviously has a lot of water content in it. To put pre-processing units to make sure that your MSW is clean and it can be put into the digester. So these are some of the practical difficulties that you will have to look at, right? again, when we say that you are making biogas, you might be getting efficiency of only 60 to 70% methane. Then how do you cleanse it to a level of 90%? Today, PSA is a very widely used technology, but then there are chemical adsorption methods. But again, the setting up of a chemical adsorption plant itself can cost you upwards of about 1.5 to 2 crores. So then, how do you see the viability of a plant? Who's going to buy it? But once you make such pure methane, you'll also have to look at who's your end customer. You are obviously not going to sell all of this to say the OMCs, because they require only 90% purity. Then also you need to look at how will you purify your gas in terms of the hydrogen sulfide that is available. What are the implications? You will generate a lot of slurry. You will generate a lot of organic manure. Although we are telling that government is going to give you a good price, you need to make sure that there is demand for the organic fertilizer within your locality where you are setting up this plant. There should be, of course, a lot of cultivable land around you, where the farmers can buy out your CBG, the fertilizers that you are making. So these are some of the practical issues that you will have to look at. You should also look at your transport issues, because not today, as of today, not every place has a CBG retail outlet within 25 kilometers of where they are going to put their plant. If it is not available, you are not going to get paid for your logistics part of it. If you say that my unit is 50 kilometers away, they are not going to pay you more for it, right? So your CBG and versus another plant which is making CBG, which is probably 10 kilometers away, will have the same value for them, unless they have a very high demand and the local plant is not able to satisfy that demand. Then they might probably be buying out from you, and then it might work out by paying you slightly more. But then if that is the case, then what is stopping another entrepreneur to set up a unit very close by to that CBG retail unit, right? And then where do you go for your market? So now these are some of the things that anybody has to keep in mind. Again, when I said Napier grass as one of the raw materials, again, it has a huge requirement of captive fields that you need to have. You need to have contract with farmers. Again, you all know how difficult it is to enforce contract with farmers. If tomorrow another CBG unit comes up within your vicinity, then what is the guarantee that he won't supply Napier grass to them, right? Obviously for a higher price. Unless you have your own fields, or you have fields which you have taken on contract for 15-20 years and you are going to grow the Napier grass yourself, then you can probably be rest assured that your raw material at least is taken care of throughout the year. Again, excuse me, sorry. Again, with that, you should also look at a lot of I would say nature related issues that you should look at, because the Napier grass is basically a warm weather crop in terms of good yield. When winter starts, it goes into kind of dormant state, so the yield starts reducing. So typically areas which have more harsh winters and longer winters, especially upwards of the Himalayas, upwards of Himachal Pradesh and things like that. So obviously you need to be very sure that you are able to get a good and a reliable source of raw material. Your Napier grass grows slow during the winter months. So these are some of the key I would say pitfalls, or some of the things or challenges that somebody should be aware of. It's not that all is rosy and things are going great. Obviously for a government perspective, they would say the first three raw materials which I showed you is what is being used, and that is why CBG is going to be a good carbon credit earner, and going to be a, I would say, going to solve a lot of their pollution issues and things like that. But for a entrepreneur, you should also look at the economic aspects, right? In that case, as of today, what we see, Napier grass is one of the key raw materials which is going to give you that. But again, to get into production of CBG depending on Napier grass, you obviously need to invest on the land availability and things like that. It's not a small task, right? Finally, I would like to open your eyes into the actual project costs. If you see, obviously there is loan from IREDA and things like that, and they provide Actually, this slide needs to be updated. I've heard they are reduced the rates to about 8% now, and also NABARD is giving loans at the rate of 4% also. But again, you can obviously get finance from private players as well. But you know, you obviously have a lot of ifs and buts there. And looking at the total project cost, if you are looking at a minimum of 2 TPD, then you should be looking at 8 to 10 crores for your setup cost. And this is just the production cost. Again, you'll have to invest a little bit more on your, based on how and where are your customers. You'll have to invest on the cascades. So this does not include that cost, and not the land cost as well, where you're setting up the plant. Then there is the so the cost. It's not it does not go linearly up. If you the more higher the plant, obviously your costing can come down a bit. For if you look at per ton of production. But this is what the cost looks like as of today. We can look at a various mix and match and try to reduce it in a few areas, but by and large, this is what an entrepreneur should look at investing. Okay, I'm sorry. I think yeah. Okay, so I think now you'll be able to see the cost. Like all ads, cost is always hidden. So so with that, I think this gives an understanding of what kind of investment is going to get into it, what is the kind of returns you can expect, and also what exactly a CBG plant holds. I think my team has told me that there is some exclusive offer that is going to come up. I'm also not very sure what it is. Anyways, let's get into the Q&A session a little bit and understand if anybody has any doubts or any questions. I'm sure I'm not be able to take all the questions, but I'll make sure that how much ever I can look at. Can press mud be also used as one of the feedstock? Obviously, like I talked about, obviously press mud, especially in the sugar area belt, the Maharashtra, UP, and Karnataka region, a lot of press mud and bagasse is available as I would say one of the byproducts of making sugar, ethanol, molasses, and the sugarcane juice and things like that. Now, press mud is very good raw material, also has very good efficiency. The only concern with press mud is the hydrogen sulfide content in that is very high. So you have to set up, an extra unit to make sure that the H2S is filtered out and the efficiency, I mean the concentration of the methane is increased. Otherwise, press mud is a feasible raw material, can be used anytime. But you should make sure that, like I said, you should not be very far from the location of where the sugar plant is, because that again will mean that the logistics cost of getting the raw material to your site itself will be very high. So typically what we see as a ballpark figure is it should not be more than 5 kilometers away from your location.
Yes, can I ask a question? Hello. So can I ask the question?
It is lignosic, can produce sugar or any form of starch for say carbohydrate, which will be fed to the of produce. Can be increased or decreased. Hello. I am told that my voice is not audible.
Yeah, your voice is not audible.
Is it better now? The voice better. Okay.
Yeah,
so
no,
any lignocellulosic material can be used to make the CBG. Obviously, you'll have to vary the pre-processing that has to be done. How you remove the outer lignin, how do you make it viable for putting it into the digester.
Hello.
And everybody.
So
next I am looking at is okay. So somebody is telling that how much CBG can we get from a 40 TPD Napier grass. So you are talking about, I am thinking that the question talks about how much, I mean, that is 40 TPD is the input of Napier grass, right? So just to give you an understanding, 1 ton of, say 100 kg of Napier grass can make about 6 kg of biogas. So if you look at 6 kg of biogas, it's about, in terms of compressed gas, I think it will be around 2.4 kilos of compressed gas, CBG, right? So that will give you an idea. So 40 ton will give you so much. So you can do the multiplication. 100 kgs gives you about 6 to 6.5 kg of biogas, which is translating into 2 kg of CBG, right? What is the subsidy for a 2 CBG plant? Basically 2 TPD, I think you are talking about. 2 TPD CBG plant can look to a subsidy of up to about 2.5 to 3 crores. But again, see, subsidy on Satat scheme is very, I would say on paper it is something and on ground it is something. So you'll have to look at a lot of factors when you set it up. But ballpark figure is about that much. Then see, a lot of training is available, right? Online as well as offline, and also a lot of government initiatives are being set up. And we also can look at if entrepreneurs are interested, if they can look at a few entrepreneurs whom we can pile up, and we can also look at arranging training for the entrepreneurs, whoever is more interested in this. Next is how many kilometers of CBG unit? Yeah, that I already mentioned. No, so the buyer facility has to be within 25 kilometers. Feedstock has to be wet or dry. There is no requirement like that. You don't have to dry the feedstock that is coming in. Obviously, once you feed it into the anaerobic digester, then it starts drying up, because the moisture content also starts going out, because it is there in the digester for more than 30 to 45 days, right? So then the moisture content starts reducing. So yeah, one more thing I would like to share. There is a very good government website called biourja.mnre.gov.in. So I think we will share that link to all of you. That is also one point where you can start looking at the government schemes and what are the kind of I would say subsidies that are available from the government. So all these are available in that. But again, see, it's being a government website, there are a lot of things that are in bits and pieces. So you will just have to stitch it up. Look around in that website and then stitch up this one. Then it will make a lot of a lot of sense for you. Next is yes, a new player is eligible. But if you look at some of the gas units, like say Indraprastha Gas, and I think one other player also, they are looking at players who have at least 1 to 2 years in the, not just in biogas sector, but also in the CNG sector. If you have experience, then they are giving you more points. So basically, it's a point-wise scheme. Out of 100 points, you have to score at least 35 marks. Based on your location, based on your previous history, based on the amount of investment that you're looking at, how much tons you are making. So all these have some point weightages, and then you have to score 35 marks to become eligible to apply for these EOIs from I've seen it from Indraprastha Gas and a few other players. I think IOCL does not have any such requirement. Just that you need to be, very basic. You need to be 21 years of age. You need to be citizen of India and things like that. So those are the requirements. Otherwise, it's open to anybody and everybody. Then,
can I ask?
Can you? Hello, can you please
Hello.
take my
so
question?
somebody is asking how small a plant I can set up. You can set up a plant just to make enough, gas to run your household also. So that is the smallest you can go at. Because see, there is no. But if you are looking at commercial CBG, then obviously, like I said, and you want to use Satat as a scheme, then 2 TPD is the minimum. You have to go. You can't go below 2 TPD because the government or the OMCs will not offtake whatever CBG you are making. You won't be able to sign agreements with them. Yeah, other than that, like I said, if you have a locally available market, especially industries who are going to offtake your CBG, then anything below that also should be fine. But see, as you go smaller and smaller, two things happen. One is your intention to run the plant should be that you want to grow big and not you want to grow smaller, right? So obviously you will want to test the market by starting small and things like that. But we have been working with a lot of entrepreneurs in the manufacturing sector, and we see that this kind of testing the market and then later expanding usually does not work in a lot of scenarios. First scenario is when the entrepreneur is not very sure whether he wants to get into the sector, and he just wants to say, let me put in some money, let me test it. So then the whole, two things happen. One is he's not put in enough money to make sure that he's going to put in his entire efforts in making the plant a success. If it becomes a success, then I'm going to run more, I'm going to put in more. If not, then I'm going to shut it down. So if you start a plant with that mentality, then more often than not the plant is going to fail. So what I suggest with we've been working with entrepreneurs for the last 6 years. We've seen that anybody who comes in with that mentality, it's very difficult to succeed. They do invest, they do put in efforts initially, but later they see that, oh, okay, this is not giving me enough as much as what I'm doing in my current, whatever, real estate, hospitality, tourism, or whatever sector they're coming from. And then it becomes very difficult for him to run the plant because he keeps comparing. If I put in the same money in my current business, this is what I'm going to get. If I don't put it in this new business, this is what I'm going to get. No, then that whole scenario will not sum it up at all. So I suggest, as a well-wisher to you, do not get into a plant with a doubt in your mind. So if the government says that 2 TPD is something that you need to set up, if you need to get 10 crores in place, go into it with that kind of a mentality. If you feel that there is a market outside, if you already know what is the market for CBG outside, you don't need any of these government policies, you don't want to supply to any of them, then go for a smaller unit plant. I would suggest at least put in as much money in it as will allow you to focus on this as your primary business. Only then, at least for the first 2 to 3 years, you have to make sure that this will be a primary line of business. Else it becomes very difficult to sustain a business in the long run.
So actually the
somebody asked, what is the composition of Napier grass? By itself, inside it, basically it's a lignocellulosic material. It can be improved by adding a lot of biomanure and things like that, where at least at the lab scale they have seen that the biogas that is being produced has increased from 6 to 6.5 kilos for 100 kg of Napier grass. But again, Napier grass is not something which has been started recently, right? It's been there since last 50-60 years. But only recently people have figured out that it's a good raw material for making CBG. right? So obviously, a lot of research is being done. One of our consultant who also works with us, an expert team called 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐫𝐭 also works a lot on improving the quality of Napier grass and making sure that the yield efficiency with that is much higher, right? So there's a lot of
Sir,
I would say a lot
we have agro.
R&D is being happening in this sector. There are a few people who are already doing this, like you have taken some names. We would not want to take names as such. No, I'm not.
Hello. Actually, you need.
Hello. I think one of
Hello.
you has a question. I'm sorry, I was not able to hear it.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. One agro food processing unit is there, packing unit, which is producing nearly 1.5 to 2 tons of agro waste daily. So can we use that waste to set up a plant and use that gas for a power generation for in-house consumption?
Can be done very much. In fact, there is a plant in Tumkur, which is basically mango pulp processing unit. They have done exactly the similar stuff, where they're using their mango peels and other organic waste that they're generating, and they're using it for in-house CBG production, which again is being fed to their boilers and for generation of electricity. This is very much feasible.
Okay, then I need the help. We can talk in further things and we can work out on that.
Sure.
I need your help.
Offline. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so there is a poll question that is coming up on your screen. I would request all of you to kindly take a few seconds and answer it, please. It might take maximum of 30 seconds to answer 4 to 5 questions, which will be put up on your screen, and you can kindly answer that. So again, one more tidbit that I would like to give is, we obviously see a lot of I would say MNCs also, and also big companies who are getting into the CBG market, which also kind of gives us a green flag that these people will be looking at setting up units which are in 100 TPD, 50 TPD kind of units, but to cater to the local demands and to see that the local industry demands are being met. There is always a potential to set up smaller units, right? Which are, like I said, 2 TPD units and maybe to the tune of until even 5 TPD. So these are some of the areas where a new entrepreneur or an existing entrepreneur from the CNG sector can look at, right? So this definitely will be something that all of us can look at. And also, when you look at the entire biofuel as such, like I was telling, ethanol, at costs of upwards of 100 crores for setting up a 100 KLPD plant. Currently, we are working with 2 plants on that. Then there is CBG, which, like I said, a feasible 2 TPD plant can come up in about 10 to 15 crores, right? And then there is biodiesel, right? So that is also something which is very feasible and something which has a very good demand. Not sure why it does not have as much PR as its sister ethanol has, but I don't know for whatever reasons. But MD, like I was talking about, is the government's initiative to blend diesel with methanol. So methanol production, basically, which is made from is basically biodiesel, which is made from used cooking oil, vegetable processed oil, hydrogenated oils. So these kind of things, it has got a very good potential, and these units can be set up in the range of about 4 to 6 crores. So if you look at the hierarchy of investments, first comes ethanol, then is CBG, and then is biodiesel in terms of biofuels. but that again, opens up a host of other related areas. A lot of chemicals that will be required, a lot of biochemicals, bioorganisms that will have to be made, yeast. It could be bacteria, microorganisms that have to be supplied to these units. So if you are an entrepreneur and looking at just CBG as one aspect, and if the cost is putting you away, then I would suggest that these are some of the areas also where you can look at, where people can look at smaller capital, investments. So I think, this has been a wonderful session. Of course, I've been speaking throughout the last 90 minutes. There are questions I'm seeing coming up. Obviously, in this case, since we are not having any external speakers, it's us and our team which is running this entire show. I would suggest any questions you have, do write into us. Either me or any of the experts will be talking to you and then answering these questions. We per se, by and large, it's our intention to make more knowledge available on each of these sectors. We will also look at options where we can probably run a webinar on the biodiesel sector as well. We have done a lot of webinars on ethanol. We've done CBG in the past as well, and today's session as well. Biodiesel is something which is also very much in demand, and we would want to run a knowledge session on that as well. But having said that, if there are any topics that you would want us to run some sessions on, or make it clear to you, or you want to know more about it, or you want expertise in coming and doing your survey in your location and helping you with the entire plant setup. Oh, by the way, we are doing about 3 plant setups in CBG, not completely by based on Napier grass, but to a large extent based on Napier grass, in Karnataka, Maharashtra, and in Rajasthan. So if anybody is interested in looking at more options and more areas where they would want us to come and do a study, also help you in setting up the plans, or it could be that you've already done some agreements with the existing players and you want us to vet it, or you want us to look at alternate options, host of other things that we can look at in terms of these biofuels. Thank you once again for giving me an opportunity to spend the last 90 minutes with you, to make you understand this entire gamut of what CBG is, what the glamour is. Obviously there is a lot of limelight today, as much as what Taylor is probably getting, or as much as what Jawan is getting, CBG is getting today. But just to make sure that beyond the limelight, there is a lot of effort and a lot of understanding that is required for any entrepreneur who wants to get into this sector. Thank you once again. Any questions, do write to us. My sales team and my projects team both will be there to guide people who have taken video consulting sessions with us. They will be setting it up in the next few days. Please bear with us. We have a lot of video consulting sessions as well. So you might get your slots slightly delayed, but you will get your slot and you will have an expert answering your questions, whatever you are having. Thank you. And it was a wonderful session. Have a great weekend. And also make sure that whatever doubts you have are clarified. Thank you.